What does that feel like? What was that experience like for you?
It was a very like powerful moment. I really wanted to make my coach proud, and I knew that going into the finals, I was pretty strong in it. But it felt pretty like powerful and empowering and just free. For as far as my teammates and coaches, like I said before, they all opened up to me and they were like, "We've been waiting for this since freshman year. Like, you were never that person. Like, when you introduced yourself as the person that you were before, we were like, okay, we'll go with it. It's new. We'll go with it." So when I finally realized that like, hey guys, like this is me, they were like, yeah, like we've been known. What's new? Like, we're happy for you. We're here for you. They supported me 100% all the way. So it was kind of surprising at the same time because I was ready. I had my guards up and I was ready to fight back, like full blown. But to be like immediately welcomed with open arms was like I was caught off guard. I've been doing track my whole life. I've been running track since I was pretty much in grade school. My mom and I travel back and forth from Canada to Jamaica, and Jamaica is like, known for like track and field. So I've been in the school system in Jamaica, and a big part of their athletic culture is running and sports. So I've been competing there in Jamaica. I competed in Canada, and now I'm here, and it's just been a part of my life.
The debate around transgender athletes is back. A college athlete in the United States of America who was born a man has just won a national running title as a woman. Transgender woman Cece Telfer was born and raised as Craig. In 2016 and 2017, Craig was ranked outside the top 200 runners in college athletics when up against male athletes. But now in 2019, after changing gender to female, Cece has just won a national championship. Cece Telfer, now running in the Franklin Pierce University women's track and field team, won the women's 400-metre hurdles at the US College Division II Championships. She absolutely blitzed the field. I mean, it was dust behind Cece Telfer. In 2016, Craig was ranked 200. In 2017, Craig was ranked 390th. In 2019, Cece is a national champion. Look, I'm very open-minded when it comes to sexuality, and I respect the right of anyone to change their gender. If you've listened to me for long enough, you'd know that. But I also don't think that it's fair to have a biologically born man compete against women. And I've been calling this out for some time. I've shared my opinion respectfully with the transgender athlete Hannah Muncie. Hannah was born Callum, and Callum played handball for Australia as a man and now wishes to play professional AFL against women. And when you have a look at Hannah, it's clear to anyone with eyes that Hannah has a physical advantage when she's on the field up against women. And this is an issue which is now becoming something that's being debated on the international stage, because I've spoken about the New Zealand weightlifter Laurel Hubbard. Laurel was born Gavin and used to compete at a national level as a man. Last year, she almost won gold at the Commonwealth Games as a woman before bowing out with injury. Then in cycling, we've got the case of Rachel McKinnon. Now, Rachel McKinnon was born a man, but won gold at the World Sprint Championships last year as a woman. So Rachel McKinnon is cycling's first transgender world champion. This is not an attack on anyone who happens to be transgender. It's about what's fair and what's not. I just don't think that it's a level playing field for people born as a man to compete against women in professional sport. There's prize money on the line. There's pride on the line. And a lot of the time, there are gold medals on the line as well. After Cece Telfer dominated the women's championship in the US over the weekend, I noticed that one of our great athletes weighed into this same issue, and that's Tamsyn Lewis. Now, Tamsyn Lewis, as you would know, is a 3-time Commonwealth Games gold medalist, and Tamsyn says something must be done here to protect the female category in sport. Tamsyn Lewis is on the line. Tamsyn, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Ben. It really concerns me that the female category isn't being protected enough in elite women's sport at the moment.
When you see the footage of what happened at this athletics meet in the US over the weekend, I mean, Cece is amazing, right? I mean, I don't know whether you've seen the tape, but she takes off and forget about it. No one gets anywhere near her.
I've seen CC race and I've known the concerns around CC racing for a little while, obviously being immersed in the track and field scene when a person who is biologically been born a male has transitioned across to female track and field. The world takes notice at the results, especially if they are doing things where they're placing in events or like what happened on the weekend where Cece went and won a race where she wouldn't have, as you said in all your statistics early, introducing the segment, that she wouldn't have even placed or got near to her team when she was competing a male. I think to me that's proof enough that women's sport needs protecting, and I know that it's a huge grey area, and a lot of the transgender athletes are arguing that they still want to perform and do athletics or whatever sport their chosen sport is at that elite level. But it really concerns me. I think that it's important that people understand it's not about gender identity. This is an issue that is surrounding what you were born as, biologically what your sex is, and there is just way too much advantage, as I see it, with a male competing against a female. I understand.
Just touch on that for me about the differences between men and women and their bodies, because I'm no expert on athletics, but yeah. I noticed even when they were lining up in the blocks, if you have a look at Cece, you can just tell from the size, the legs, the arms, the build, the whole thing, well, hang on a moment, this person's going to have more power than the rest in the field.
Well, taking it back a step, we often joke as elite women track and field athletes in Australia that you can always find a training partner in Australia, because Australia is quite a hard place to do track and field because it's so predominantly performed over in Europe at the high level or in America. So what we do as females training here is we go and we grab a male who's nowhere near elite. They're probably just average athletes, but they love the sport and they can train with any elite female and they can push us along, they can go slower in their reps, and we're really pushing it to try and keep up with them just to improve our training so that when we go over and perform with the elite females, we're in shape and ready to go. And that's the thing. The male body is very different. They are stronger. Once a male body goes through puberty, they have greater bone strength, they have greater, they've got better muscle strength, they're often taller and they can be wider. They've just got completely different bodies to the female anatomy. And there's nothing you can do about that. That's biology. And so it really concerns me, even though these athletes are transitioning, they don't change their natural height or, arm length or leg length. And so there's a big concern for me in that when they do transition. Yes, I understand that they're taking hormonal treatment, but I still think there's a huge grey area and there needs to be a lot more research done and presented that says that, okay, there is no advantage whatsoever. But I just feel like CC on the weekend pretty much showed us that there is an advantage.
We're speaking to Tamsyn Lewis, gold medalist at the 1998, 2002 and 2006 Commonwealth Games. This is becoming a big issue, Tamsyn. You get the feeling it's not going to go away because we've now got track and field, AFL, cycling, weightlifting, and I wonder what happens one day when it happens in boxing, when you have someone born a man who becomes a woman and then says, I want to fight.
Well, and that's why I think it's so important that these discussions are taking place right now. And I think it is important that they're done respectfully, but I think it needs to be the point where if you stand on the side of the fence where you think it's not fair to that female category, you aren't afraid to come out and say that you think that it's unfair, because female sport needs to be about the best female athletes going out there and competing, like biologically born female athletes going out there and competing and doing the hard work just through natural talent, hard work, and performing well. But if this matter isn't looked at seriously right now, we could see in the future that biologically born females may not win sporting events all the time. And that's just, to me, that's a real concern. It's a concern for our female juniors coming through the ranks. It's a concern for female sport as a whole. It's a real worry.
Well, I can tell you, I know a lot of people are a bit worried about speaking about it because they're concerned that they'll be painted as someone who is discriminating against people who are transgender. But there's a growing army of people who are saying there's something not quite right here. We spoke off air today to Rob Di Castella and also Melinda Gainsford-Taylor, and both of them said, look, there is not a level playing field here, and it's something that sporting bodies in Australia and overseas are going to have to address at some point. I really appreciate you coming on, and good on you for being brave enough to talk about it, because I know that when I spoke about the Hannah Muncie case in the AFL, I had a lot of those women AFL players contacting me privately to say, hey, thanks for talking about it because we're too afraid to.
Well, see, that's a really big shame, I think. And it's 100% fine if transgender athletes want to talk out about why they should be able to do it. And I'm happy to listen to all the research that they put forward and to see the logical sense that they bring to the table. But currently, from what I see and how I feel in terms of having performed in elite sport, I just think we really need to work hard in protecting the female category for the right reasons for elite female sport to survive.
Great to speak to you, Tamsyn. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Ben.
Tamsyn Lewis. She's Tamsyn Manou these days, three-time gold medalist for the 4x400 metre relay, 1998, 2002 and 2006 Commonwealth Games. Where do you stand on this issue? And following our conversation just then about transgender athletes, I've now got another track and field star on the line, Jane Fleming. Jane Fleming has called in. Good afternoon, Jane.
Oh, hi, Ben. How are you?
Good. I'm honoured that you've called in. Tell me what you think.
Oh, look, I just wanted to add to Tamsyn's opinion and give you some of the physiological benefits that those transgender athletes bring to a female sport. So there's a number of them. One is that particularly if they've gone through puberty, they have sort of a larger oxygenization of their blood, so they carry more oxygen around than what a female would. They absolutely have increased bone strength, and for a lot of particularly distance and endurance-based athletes, female athletes, they go through a lot of bone problems because of the volume of training they have to do. So a boy or a transgender that had grown up as a male would automatically have that advantage. And they also have increased muscle bulk. So you can imagine how that affects strength. And the way that I can really give you a fantastic example, even with regards to limb length, is one of the reasons Usain Bolt dominated the 100 metres so much is because he took 1 to 2 less strides than the rest of the field because of his height.
I see.
You can imagine a boy or a man that's now transferred over to being female, taking all those advantages into a female sport, has absolutely an unfair advantage.
And men are, on average, taller and larger than the average woman.
Yes, because they've grown up with male hormones and testosterone, and that is one of the reasons why the Caster Semenya argument is going around as well. This extra testosterone, there's absolutely evidence galore that proves that having increased levels of testosterone, particularly through your growing years, adds to increased performance in sport. And so things like the New Zealand weightlifter who didn't transfer or change their gender until they were in their 30s, comes to the start line with a massive advantage over all their female competitors.
Well, when you see the footage of Cece Telfer racing, I mean, you can tell within 1 second what the result's going to be. In fact, you could probably just tell by looking at them lining up on the blocks. You look along the line and then you think, oh, hang on a moment, there's one there that doesn't look like the others as far as body shape and size. And it's an unfair advantage, you know?
It is. And indeed, in the 400-metre hurdles in track and field, one of the big defining qualities around how fast you run is how many strides you can manage to get in between the hurdles.
So what are they going to do? What are international sporting bodies going to do about this issue? Because it's not going away. We've now got it in track and field. We've got it in AFL. We've got it in cycling. We've got it in weightlifting. What are they going to do?
Look, I just think there has to be a ruling not dissimilar to the International Athletic Federation just got through the Court of Arbitration of Sport, where yes, if transgender people want to actually compete, they cannot compete at the elite level to start with. And really, just as when you transfer or change your gender, there are a lot of things that you can no longer do. So you no longer go to a men's bathroom. You no longer, have male on a driving licence or whatever. Then one of those decisions that has to come into or one of the criteria or things that you have to contemplate when making that decision is that I will no longer be able to participate in elite sport.
Jane, really, really good to hear your point of view. Thank you so much for sharing it.
You're more than welcome.
Good on you. Australian track and field star Jane Fleming, who says it's just not fair. Man, look, it might not be the nicest thing to say to someone who's already gone through such a life challenge that they've decided to change their gender, but think about all the other kids out there who've spent all of those early mornings and late nights training and working hard and saving for the opportunity to get to the Commonwealth Games or the Olympic Games, and all of a sudden someone else turns up who's twice your size and they just leave you in their dust.